And for folks listening and our interviewees, the appointments to these two commissions will be made at this evening's city council meeting. Our meeting starts at 5. Okay, we're going to begin with the interviews for candidates for the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority. And just to remind everyone, the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority is a separate entity from the city. It is legislatively created, and the board makeup is also legislatively designated. So council has this evening an opportunity to appoint 3 people to vacancies on the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority. And 2 of the spots must be filled by a hotelier representing a hotel that has 101 rooms or more. And 1 of the appointments must be a hotelier for a hotel with 100 or less rooms. So that is, again, statutorily mandated, and council, in fulfilling its statutory requirements, is conducting these interviews. They're important interviews, so we do these interviews in a forum like this. Actually, normally we do them in the council chamber, but this is our council chamber during COVID. We're going to begin with our first interviewee, and that is PRATIK BHAKTA. And you can tell me if I said your name wrong, Pratik, but if you would please, and you represent a hotel over 101 rooms or larger. If you could, I'll just kick us off. If you could begin by telling us why you're interested in serving in this role.
If you don't mind, I'll start off by saying, here we are again. I've applied for the TDA seat again. Let me begin by introducing myself. For those of you who may not know me already, my name is PRATIK BHAKTA, a hotelier for over 26 plus years, and a resident of Asheville and Buncombe County for over 37 plus years. I'm an Asian American, specifically Indian. Hospitality is in Asian Americans' DNA, so to speak. The Indian mentality and culture customs are driven on hospitality. For example, you can never go to an Indian person's home and not expect to be offered something to eat. It is with pride and passion that we welcome people in our homes, and that has, over many decades here in America, translated to hospitality in lodging. How so, you say? Let me share with you some statistics from a recent Oxford economic study. This information can also be found at AAHOA.com. That's AAHOA.com. AAHOA stands for Asian American Hotel Owners Association. In fact, Asian Americans own 60% of the hotels and motels nationwide. That's 6 out of every 10 hotels. In North Carolina alone, it's 67.7%. I would venture to say it's higher than that in Buncombe County. We Asian Americans are a close-knit community, but make no mistake, hospitality is our passion, so much so that we still own and operate our mom and pop motels, as well as bigger franchise properties, from economy to upscale brands and everything in between. From doing desk shifts to housekeeping to maintenance, we do it all still. But to that extent, I also believe that we need equal representation on the TDA. We work hard every day in our lives, and we have been welcomed into part of this community many decades ago. We received some negativity and criticisms from the press and also from some of our elected leaders, but we do not let that deter us nor dissuade us from trying to better ourselves and the community around us. Most of us came from nothing. We did not have much growing up, but we worked, we saved, we earned, we invested in our families and ourselves. I feel that we should have a voice on the TDA so that we can continue to invest in our community by means of hospitality. Listen, I've grown up here. My kids have grown up here. My roots are here. I will probably retire if and when that time comes. I ask you to consider me yet again so that we can work together to mend the divide that has been created and work together to better our community and the economy in this area. As you know, the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority is a public authority created in 1983 by the Act of North Carolina Legislature to oversee the collection and investment of occupancy taxes paid by travelers who stay overnight in commercial lodging establishments such as hotels, motels, bed and breakfast operations, and vacation rentals. The members of the BCTDA have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that tax dollars are spent in accordance with the specific legislation governing their use as referenced by the mayor. I'm willing to volunteer my time, energy, and efforts to help better our community. And if I could answer any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, does anyone on council have any questions? I don't see any little hands raised, but jump in.
I have one, and it's just based on what you just said. You mentioned about mending a divide. Exactly what type of divide are you referencing?
Well, it's no secret that the past several years, there's this divide that hotels are bad and they're historically, meant to be or in the press have been, just a negative stigma. We as hoteliers know that we're part of this community. We want to make sure that we can do everything we can within legislation and statutes to give back to the community any which way we can. And we want to make sure that we want to work with City Council. We want to work with Buncombe County to make sure that, we as a community thrive and prosper together, not just, one or the other.
Thank you.
Sandra Kilgore, I think you had your hand raised next, and then we'll go to Sage's question.
Hi, PRATIK.
Hi, Sandra.
Good. I just wondered, what are some ideas that you have in particular that you think could actually improve that relationship between the community and the hotel industry? Do you have something new to bring to the table that the TDA is not, you feel that they haven't really addressed?
Well, I think, the dialogue is just not there. I think there's animosity and hostility towards one or the other. I think we can do a better job of that. In fact, there's programs that I think we may be able to use some of those funds. I'd have to do a lot more research on there to figure out if we are allowed to use some of those funds to help enhance part of the community in terms of, what the legislation allows us to do. And I'd be happy to, sit down and say, Sandra, let's see if we can focus on this outreach or that, because that's going to benefit the community as in general. And we can still figure out a way that we can use those funds to bring that to the table.
Thank you.
Sage, go ahead.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, PRATIK. So you keep mentioning legislation and the fiduciary responsibility of the BCTDA, and I agree. I'm curious, there is a bill currently out there that would change the percentage allocated between public investment and capital projects, et cetera, and marketing. Do you support that bill, and have you been able to use your voice to support it at a state level?
I believe that, we think we can come down from the 75 to that 66%, and I welcome that. There has been preliminary discussions about funding some city things that we could probably convince, or not we, but not the TDA, but hoteliers in general could talk with state legislators to figure out if we can invest some of those proceeds to city funds. But yes, I do support going down from 75 to 66%.
Anyone else have any questions?
This is Kim. Just lifting up what Sandra's already named, do you have any specific examples of innovative or creative ways that we could work within the legislation we have right now?
Again, let me reiterate that, we would have to get in there and discuss what possibilities there are. As I've not been on the TDA, I can't, excuse me, I can't tell you what's been or what hasn't been discussed. But I can tell you that I'd be willing to sit down and say, yeah, let's try this.
Thank you, PRATIK.
Mm-hmm.
Pratik, this is Gwen.
Hey, Gwen.
How are you?
Good.
Good. What do you see the TDA's role with the legislators? Do you feel like it's completely hands off, or do you feel like the TDA actually has a role in a lobbying kind of position?
I believe the TDA should not be put in that situation where it's authority created by the legislature. Obviously there's politics involved at every level, but I think the TDA just needs to do their job, which is specified into that. If there are specific legislators that we could talk to, or from the hoteliers' perspective, that's a different story. But I think, as far as TDA goes, they need to do their responsibility of what their job-specific duties are.
Okay, and in our final minute, any other questions? And anything else you want to add before we close out your interview?
No, thank you for your time. And, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out, even if I'm not selected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, we're our next interviewee, who I'm not sure if yes, he is on here, is Scott. You'll have to tell me how to say your last name. KERCHNER, hopefully, is correct. And you might be on mute, I'm not sure. But if you would, we'll just kick this interview off. I'll start it. And just by asking, tell us a little bit about why you're interested in serving on the Tourism Development Authority.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. And yes, you did pronounce it correctly, Scott KERCHNER. And I too would like to just share a little background about myself. I'm currently the general manager of the Element Hotel in downtown. We opened just recently, but I've been in the Asheville area for about 12 years and worked in hospitality all of those 12 years. I've really enjoyed it. All the people I've met locally, all the people I've learned from, and I'm really excited about this opportunity to work at a little bit of in a different capacity than what I have. I've moved around quite a bit growing up as a kid. I was born in London, England, lived in Saudi Arabia, didn't spend more than 2 years in any given place. But when the opportunity came for me to go to college, I picked little old Brevard College, all the way from Houston, Texas, and decided I really wasn't going to leave. So I've made it a point to make Asheville a home. My wife and I live here. We'll be starting our family here, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to dive into this role potentially and see what I can give back to this community that's given me so much.
Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm going to open it up. Anybody have any questions? All right, Sandra.
Okay. Hi, Scott. How are you today?
I'm well, Sandra. I hope you are.
Great, thanks. Tell me, and you were saying about your travel and the different areas where you've lived and whatever. What are some ideas or that you may have picked up somewhere along the way that you could share with the TDA that would make it more effective, as far as this relationship in the community or things that it could do? Maybe
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I think simply put, the first thing that comes to mind is open-mindedness. That's something, certainly living in a few different places around the world, I think not just a tolerance, but an open-mindedness to listen more than you speak, work to understand, work to better a relationship or a network of relationships. That's something that I've worked hard my whole life to do. I'm definitely a better listener than I am a speaker often. And I think that's something that, whether or not it's already being done effectively, I think I'd work to make sure that we are doing as a board.
Thank you.
Other questions?
This is Gwen. Scott, I'm going to ask the same question I asked before. Do you see that the TDA had, or what role do you see the TDA has relative to legislation and working with the state legislators on any changes or any issues around the TDA regulations?
Sure. I'll tell you first, I'm excited to learn more about what that presently looks like. Seeing it sort of from the outside, I have some thoughts there, but I think my initial thought is that the TDA's primary role is to work to enhance everything that our CVB friends, Explore Asheville, are doing. Support them, work in tandem with them, and that goes as well for the product development fund. I think that's where the priority might be versus working with legislators in that regard. So I think I might share about the same sentiment as Pratik mentioned earlier.
Sage?
Thank you. Hi, Scott. Thank you for being here. I'm curious, as someone that would be voting on those capital projects, TPDX funds, and et cetera, in the community, whether that be 25% or 33%, yet to be known, what investments in the community would you prioritize with those funds?
Without being able to speak specifically to, precise projects, projects that are in line more with long-term sustainable impacts that, again, align with what our collective goals are, not just through the TDA, but as a community. And I think that goes back to listening and understanding what it is our community needs. I realize that, one of the goals of that fund is to help generate and drive occupancy and room nights, but it also is extremely important that these are sustainable, impactful, meaningful projects that can be utilized for the long term with our local community members.
I'm going to see if anyone else has a question, but I was just going to jump in. I'd just like to ask you pointedly, are you aware of the pending legislation that would allow a change in how the room tax is allocated, move it from one quarter towards capital versus allowing it to be a third of the room tax and allow more flexibility? So it can be for maintenance or even maybe some operational expenses that the city and county might have. Are you supportive of that legislation? We don't know if it'll pass this session, but are you supportive of that legislation?
Yes, I am aware of it. And I do believe I am without knowing exactly how that will work. I think that, again, it goes back to how this board would work with the city on how I think it just comes down to making sure we're all in tandem, we're all in sync. And if we can do that, which I'm confident we can, I am in favor of that. I think it's important and goes back to what I was saying earlier about being able to benefit our community for the longer term and at the same time benefit those that are visiting us from out of town.
Any other questions of anyone on council?
Scott, this is Kim. I wanted to go back to your answer to Sage's question and our shared goals. So what are some specific examples of ways to get innovative or creative in addressing what's getting in our way to getting to those goals?
That's a great question. I like what you said about first understanding what it is that's getting in our way to achieve those goals. And just candidly, I'm not sure what those are at this point. Just again, being on the outside, of this to some degree for so long. I have some idea, but I don't want to speculate too much. I suppose what my initial thought would be is understanding sort of the sandbox that we all have to play in, understanding how, what all we can do there, what are our opportunities, what are the existing tools we have at hand, what are our existing goals, do we need to tweak those, do we need to realign those, and just, I think, more impactfully being able to work together as one solid group versus more of a, I don't want to use the word adversarial, but just, working together. So it's a good question. I struggle to answer it with specifics, but yeah, I think that's kind of how I would land on that.
Thank you, Scott.
Any other questions? And Scott, anything you wanted to add at the end here? No, you don't have to, but.
Sure. No, I appreciate everyone's time and this opportunity and the great questions, and I'm certainly available if I can follow up on anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're going to turn now to the interview of Michael LUSICK, who's just joined us. And I should say Scott represented a hotel of 100 or less rooms, and Mr. LUSICK represents a hotel of 101 plus rooms. So if you could just take a moment and tell us a little bit about why you're interested in pursuing this position. And you're on mute. You're definitely on mute.
Better now? All right. So again, my name is Michael LUSICK, and I thank you for the opportunity to even be considered for this position. Relative newcomer to Asheville. I've been here about 3.5 years. And my wife and myself and my family have been so impressed with Asheville, the hospitality at almost every turn, whether in business, neighborhoods, the schools, the churches, there's no question we're staying here. And I felt I wanted to do something to give back to the community, something there I could use my talents to maybe benefit Asheville in some way. This seemed to be the most likely, the best vehicle for me at the moment that I've seen. And I thought I've been here long enough. Well, I've still got some things to learn about Asheville and how things are done in Asheville. I do feel like I've got enough under my belt and that I think I could contribute and be a positive factor towards the growth of the community.
All right, thanks. Anyone want to kick us off with a question or second question?
I have a question for Michael. Michael, do you believe that the TDA is contributing its fair share to help the city manage the impacts of tourism?
Good question. I don't know enough about the finances. What I do know is that if both sides aren't happy, then probably not. So what is the solution? In the end, I think if these organizations are going to exist, we need to coexist to the success for both. So I do sense tension from the city side that they're not contributing enough. Again, I'm not educated well enough to know what the dollar numbers are, but is there and should there be an improvement in the relationships, the contribution towards the mutual success? I believe so, and I actually believe it's in both organizations' best interest to find a way to be more successful together. I hope that answered the question, or close.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sandra, you have a question?
Yes, my question is sort of the same, what I've been asking all the candidates is, what do you think, or do you have some ideas where you think that you could actually improve on what the TDA is doing, or, or some, different ways to look at it as far as the process?
I believe so. Not having been involved in their current meetings, I've been fortunate enough in my career to work around the country in both large cities and smaller communities. I think some of the things that Asheville's done is way advanced to the rest of the country. But I also think there's opportunities for maybe Asheville to maybe catch up where some other communities have a better working relationship. So I think my experience in dealing with so many different organizations in different communities, I can bring some successes that people may not have seen. You know, I've worked in every state in the country other than Hawaii, done work with both cities and hotel companies and businesses. So I've learned, and I think how to work together, how to compromise, how to work towards solutions versus how do we protect ourselves from each other, which I think is a lot of times the case. Is we're so worried about losing something that we focus on protecting ourselves versus, okay, where is the opportunity for us to move forward together? And you keep chipping away at that. Next thing you know, we're working together.
Thank you.
Sage?
Thank you for being here, and it's nice to meet you virtually.
Thank you.
So the current legislation allows for 25% of the lodging tax to be reinvested in the community, and 75% goes into marketing. Those percentages are up for change in the bill currently. I'd be curious to know if you support a larger percentage going to projects. More importantly, I would like to know, as someone that would sit on that board and vote on what projects and what investments into the community would be made, I'm curious if there's anything that stands out to you that you think Asheville really needs investing in and prioritizing.
Good question. So I did sit on advisory board where they kind of felt the hotel community felt decided about whether we'd support the change, and I'm proud to say my organization voted yes to support the change. That's both my ownership as well as myself. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I know the infrastructure in Asheville is a challenge. I know we bring a lot of demands on the city, so infrastructure is definitely an opportunity. There's no question that housing, whether it's for business, community, just morally, we need to find a way, both as businesses and private citizens, to help the city in that effort. So while I know my focus is on the business side of this, I think there is a responsibility here. It's good for us, but it's also a moral responsibility that just too many people struggling to find a place to live and go to sleep at night. So I do think there's got to be some way for us to work together towards that solution, and I think there's a role to be played there by the TDA. I speak a little bit lack of education on some of what the project opportunities are, but I do think there are opportunities there.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? I have a question.
I have a question. Nice to meet you, Mr. LUSICK. So I asked this same question before. The TDA is a legislatively determined body, but it also really represents the hotel industry, I think, from the perspective of the legislators and certainly or the state legislators, and certainly from the perspective of local legislators. What do you think the TDA's role is in interacting with the state legislators to get some of these changes enacted, or where do you see this TDA's role in that?
I don't know how aggressive or proactive we should be in legislation. If we've agreed to something, we should do what we can to move that forward quickly and eliminate any obstacles towards getting what might be agreed to executed. And I do see the TDA's all work with the local government and the officials to determine solutions. And then once we agree on, we should then support those with the legislature as a unified voice or in supporting whatever compromise or agreement we come to. So I don't know if we aggressively legislate, but I think we should be supportive and minimize obstacles we might place in the way of actual execution. It's one thing to say you'll do it, nothing to actually get it done and executed.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank you for joining us here today. If there's anything you want to add at the end here, that you can do that, or we'll just close it out.
I'll take just 10 seconds. So I am passionate about being more involved with Asheville. So if this isn't the right role in your opinion for me, know that I've got a lot of experience in business and a lot of experience both in hotels and some other areas, that if there's some other avenue where I could support an organization or somewhere, one of you, please reach out. I'd welcome the opportunity to contribute somewhat in some way. But thank you for your time. Sorry.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Next, we are going to interview Larry Crosby, and Larry represents hotels of a size of 100 rooms or less. And there is Larry. I'm looking all around my screen. All right. Sorry, everyone's just a little box. Hello, Mr. Crosby. If you could just tell us a little bit about why you're interested in serving on the Tourism Development Authority.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to have this interview and the opportunity to hopefully join onto the TDA board. I'm excited about this process because I am passionate about tourism. I've been in the industry since I've gotten out of college, and I moved from here, moved to Asheville from Charleston, South Carolina. I've been here about 3.5 years. And Charleston has a lot of similarities as I noticed when I moved here, as Asheville, small growing city that has a strong foundation and basis in tourism. And with that knowledge and experience, I want to be someone who can at least have a perspective that's different, that really comes in with unique and challenging ideas. Someone who lives and works in the middle of downtown. I see every day the direct impacts of tourism on this community. I work with people every day that struggle with the cost of living, struggle with the traffic parking situations that we deal with, but also I feel it's very important to highlight the good that tourism does for communities as well. So I want to be able to be someone who can at least bring that voice forward and really hopefully impart change.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Yes, Sandra, please.
Hi, Larry, and thanks so very much. Very happy to have you here today. Anyway, I want to ask you, like you were saying, bringing in new ideas and things like that. Could you maybe sort of elaborate on maybe some ideas that you think could help improve the overall tourist, a TDA, and also improve the relationship with the community itself?
Absolutely, and thank you for that question, Sandra. I think it's important to listen and engage with our community. We have many people who are passionate about the issue of tourism, but when it comes to ideas, I think we have to be forward thinking. I think it's important to be innovative. Maybe there's an opportunity to redefine what projects are funded with the allocation of 25%. Maybe perhaps there's initiatives that as the TDA board, we can push hoteliers and people who operate homestays to do on their side that maybe can assist in the community. I think it's just really important that, we listen a lot. As my role as general manager, it's very important that I listen to all my staff and my employees and the people that's within this community of the block of how we impact this neighborhood and also, Asheville as a whole. But also, again, really starting to think outside the box of what we've done or the TDA has probably done for the last 20 to 25 years and say to ourselves, is there a way that we can redefine the way that tourism, either not marketing dollars, but let's say the 25% allocation, is there a way that we could fund projects that will more meet the needs of everyone involved and not just tourism related? I think just, again, simply listening to those who have a stake in this is really important.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions?
This is Gwen. Mr. Crosby, thanks for coming today. It's good meeting you. I'm going to ask the same question that I've asked everybody else is, the TDA is obviously a board that's been determined legislatively, however, you also vote on and determine if there are changes that needs to be made to the legislation, both at the state level. What do you see the role of TDA relative to enacting new legislation and lobbying for changes or even lobbying for status quo?
Thank you for the question. And I do think the TDA, they do not have a role of lobbying, but I do think that there could be a need for advocacy. We try our best to become a voice for things that, we do think that how things should move. Lobbying is certainly something I don't think, again, is in the interest of the TDA as a whole, but I do think there's a difference between lobbying and advocating for change. And I think that is something that we can certainly do actively within our communities and out in the public space.
Anyone else?
Larry, hi. This is Sage. Thanks, Larry, for being here today. It's good to see you. So we've talked a little bit about the legislation. It was great to hear you respond about projects and doing better projects that are more cohesive for the community and all the input. Great answers there. I'm wondering, as you know, there's this bill out to potentially change the legislation and increase the percentage that would go into capital projects. Do you support that? And if it didn't pass this year, would you support future efforts of such?
Yes, and thank you as well for that question. Yes, I do support that change. I think there's a need to move now that we see that the marketing dollars are doing their fair share to generate tourism to this community, and that reallocation would appropriately at least fund projects that's outside of the marketing efforts. If it wasn't to be passed this year, I think it's something that in the past, former members of the board have promised to be advocates for that change. So we should continue that work and really try to deliver that promise to the communities of at least having that different split of 66 to 33%. So I think that's something that we should continuously try to push forward to yearly until they make a change.
I have a question for you, Larry. You made a comparison between Asheville and Charleston. But one thing I can say off the top of my head that's missing from Asheville that's very significant in Charleston is the Black culture and how they contribute to the arts and tourism. Do you see an opportunity there, and can you advocate for that?
Absolutely. I think Charleston, a very historic city. The roots of Charleston is built off of the evils of slavery, and certainly there was a large Black community there that I saw very much gentrified throughout the years that I was there. Asheville, from what I know in talking to community leaders here, has been gentrified for a very long time, and the sense of culture in place for African Americans here has been devoid. And I think there is more that needs to be done. We can certainly fund initiatives. I think even with the marketing efforts that we currently put out there, we can be attracting different type of visitors that look more like myself or different walks of life and different diverse backgrounds. I give an example of Atlanta, Georgia, which has a very high affluent Black American community there that has a lot of money that would love to come spend money in Asheville. We should be, targeting specific type of marketing efforts towards them. They're only 3.5 hours down the road, essentially. And, there's just a lot of opportunity, especially within the neighborhood that I am in, which is the Block neighborhood. I see a vision for this place to have a rebirth of sorts with the businesses that surround the hotel, the YMI, and with the redevelopment and renovation of that building, which should be the anchor of this neighborhood. There's a lot of opportunity that we could be doing, and certainly it could start with the TDA, making, at least having the conversations, listening to the voices that are concerned, and again, just pushing forward.
Thank you, Larry.
Anyone else have any questions in our closing couple of minutes here? Or Larry, if you have anything else you want to add, feel free.
Yeah, I'd probably close out by saying, again, thank you for the opportunity to have this interview. I'm really passionate about the industry that I work in. It has afforded me the opportunity to live in crazy, great places like Asheville and Charleston and travel the world. And I do realize that, we do a lot of good for the community. I think it's certainly good to highlight that. And we have an opportunity now to kind of change the face of what the TDA looks and how it represents, this city. And also, I really think that it's the opportunity to get everyone involved and have the conversations that aren't so, one corner versus another corner. We really need to come together and really be meaningful about it. and not just be talk and rhetoric. I think action is going to really, lead at the end of the day, and strategic planning, of course, in the right directions is going to get us there. But again, thank you for the opportunity to have this interview, and hopefully I can be elected. And if not, certainly still would love to be a contributing member of this community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have one final interview now, and that's Matthew Lehman. I'm looking around my little screen, and there he is. Hello.
Good afternoon.
And I don't know if you go by Matt or Matthew, but it says Matthew on your box, so I'm going with Matthew.
That works for me. Thank you.
Very good. Can you just start off by telling us a little bit about why you're interested in serving on, those beeping noises, Sarah, right there? Why you're interested in serving on the Tourism Development Authority?
Well, I think part of our role as hoteliers is understanding that our role extends far beyond our property and obliges us to be a representative of our community and to support that community. I think people travel not for a hotel room. I like to say when you're lying in bed and your eyes are closed, you could be anywhere. It's a dark room. The reason you choose to visit a place is the people that have created the spirit of that community, that make it special, that have the draw, if you will. And so our role as hoteliers is to be participants of that community and to work to benefit that community so that we can continue to have that spirit that makes people want to come here in the first place. I moved to Asheville about 1.5 years ago from Santa Monica, California, which, believe it or not, is very similar to Asheville. Similar population size, just surrounded by Los Angeles instead of the beautiful mountains. Similar challenges in terms of protecting a community that made it special in the first place, despite the increase in demand. And I moved here because I wanted to be a long-term part of another community. I was at my last job for 12 years. I've got 2 little girls and want to be in Asheville for a long time as well. And in Santa Monica, I was chair of the CVB there, Santa Monica Travel and Tourism. I was chair of the Tourism Marketing District. Did a lot of work with Visit Los Angeles. And so I find it, not just obligatory, but very rewarding to be part of helping sustain a community and reflect the values of the community while creating opportunities for people that live here. There's a great thing about hotel jobs is that they can't be outsourced. And so there's great opportunity for people to find a career, gain an education, and set themselves off on a great path in life through working in hospitality and tourism. And I think that's just one of the many ways we can benefit our community. And I want to be a part of that and continue to be a part of that.
Thank you. Anyone? Go ahead, Gwen, please.
Mr. Lehman, it's interesting that you have experience in Santa Monica in kind of doing the same kind of thing relative to representing the hotel industry. So in Asheville, as you probably figured out, there's a segment of the population that has a problem with tourism and thinks we're over touristed and wages are low and all those issues. Did you have the same issue in Santa Monica, and how did that community address that?
We did have the same issue in Santa Monica, and as one of our council members said in a meeting with us once, people are coming whether we like it or not. It's our job not to dissuade them. It's our job to manage that process well as stewards of our community, and that always stuck with me. I think the most important first step is communication. And how do we communicate starts with being good listeners and really understanding not where the negative impact of tourism is perceived, but understanding where the negative impact is actualized and understanding how it's affecting these members of our community, so we can shape our path moving forward a little differently. And reflect their needs better, and also try to work to make sure that the benefits of tourism in any area are received by the entirety of the community. So there's an equitable distribution of that upside, if you will, as opposed to only seeing the benefit for certain people. But communication is first and foremost in my mind, especially the listening piece, but also the sharing, so we can shape this together.
Antoinette?
Hello, Matthew. Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Piggybacking on a discussion that began in Larry's interview, I'm wondering if you have given any consideration what ideas you may have about diversifying and expanding the types of tourists that we market to.
Well, I think, again, it's the unique qualities of Asheville that create the appeal. And that those unique qualities come from a very diverse community. And so I think it behooves us to market to a very diverse community. There's a universality to travel. All people like to travel. All people, I believe, truly want to experience new things, want to experience, seeing new sights, trying new foods, and appreciating the unique spirit of a destination. So I think it's absolutely critical for us to, as a marketing organization, to make sure our outreach is as broad and diverse as the community we serve.
Go ahead, Sandra.
Hi, Matthew. How are
Good
you?
afternoon. I'm well, thank you.
Thank you. I just wondered, basically, do you have any ideas or creative ideas or, that's something that you could share with us that you see that the TDA could do better in its relationship with the community to actually improve that?
Well, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, so to speak, but I think the most important first step is to listen. I think, before you worry about outreach to outside communities and outreach to tourists, I think you need to make sure you're extending that outreach to your community, and that you're hearing what needs they need to be served, how we can bring benefits to them, because it's easy to say, it's a public meeting, it's posted. But I imagine despite all these many squares, there's not a whole lot of our community joining in to listen to interviews for TDA board. And so if we can embrace different types of outreach and community participation, especially, God willing, when Delta passes and we can meet in person again, then there's the opportunity to connect with people on an individual level, as opposed to just meetings and minutes.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
I just feel led to ask you, just straight out, who are you and what do you bring to the team?
Thank you. That's one of the best questions I think I've ever been asked. Who am I? I'm a father. I'm a leader. I'm a listener. I'm a student. I am someone seeking to make the most out of every day, to leave the world better than I found it, to really appreciate the subtleties, I think, that make life worth living. So I think I bring, I bring an education, I bring an experience, I bring a lot of history of working in teams and groups and communities. But I think what I bring most of all is a genuine care and a heart for what we do.
Thank you.
Matthew, this is Kim, and I've heard you several times address the people that make our community special. And you're one of those people because this is your home too, with your family. So I'm thinking about considering the extractive nature of tourism as in a general sense. What ways do you see that we could get creative or innovative with our existing regulations to better achieve a sustainable economy, not just for the people who live and visit here, but for our natural environment?
Well, I think the natural environment is one of the biggest attractions that we have here. And so I think to be honest, I'm dialing in from Savannah. I'm at meetings with our corporate office, and I just finished listening to a 3-hour seminar on sustainability and how, in the very literal sense, we as hoteliers have obligations to leave our footprint as small as possible, from energy consumption to water usage to waste and recycling. And I think that also extends to the impact of how individual people visit our city. We're a very driving market, and I think there's opportunities to alter whom we market to find more, shall we say, friendly ways of getting to Asheville that are less impactful. That's a really complicated question, but I think it's the prioritization of that question that's important, because it gets far smarter minds than mine involved in really coming to an answer that benefits everyone.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, we hit the chime for once. So we know what that sounds like. We appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. And that concludes our interviews for the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority. Again, we'll need to make 3 appointments at this evening City Council meeting, which starts at 5 o'clock. And it looks like we are supposed to have a break for 7 minutes until we start the P&Z interviews at 3:30. Okay, so everyone we'll be right back here at 3:30, now in 6 minutes. Zoning vacancies. We have 2 vacancies on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we're going to begin this round of interviews with Ken Busey. Hope I'm saying that right. And Ken, Kenny, sorry. On my sheet it says Kenneth, so I just made it Ken, but you're Kenny. Okay. If you could just begin by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to serve on P&Z.
Sure. My name is Kenny Bussey. I'm originally from Kentucky. I'm a University of Kentucky grad, graduated with my bachelor's and master's in civil engineering from the university. I've been practicing civil engineering in North Carolina from mountains to coast since 2007. Became a registered professional engineer in 2011 with the state of North Carolina. I'm a fairly recent transplant to Asheville. Previously a former visitor. Discovered very quickly on that I was attracted more to the mountains than I was to the beach. So I just made the trip a little easier for me by relocating here. My interest in the Planning and Zoning Commission is I do want to become a more active participant in the city of Asheville. I love the city. I love the amenities that it has. I love the culture. I love the uniqueness that it contains. A lot of the times with my profession, the only way I can really use that to benefit the city is if I'm with a consulting team that has won a project for the city. Or I'm working for NCDOT on a street or road that is running through the city of Asheville. I would like to use my unique skill set of understanding the impacts of business development, the zoning of certain areas, and how it impacts our infrastructure, how it puts a demand on both roads and streets, as well as our storm sewer infrastructure. There's more than just, there are more costs than I think a lot of people realize by the decision that goes into maybe changing an area from one type of zoning to another. And I think it'll give me an opportunity again to give back to a community that I'm, again, trying to be more engaged in.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Sage, please.
Sure. Hi, Kenny. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for applying.
Pleasure to
I'm
meet you.
curious. Yeah, and it's great to know you have experience in engineering. I'm curious, since you are rather new to the area, if there are any existing ordinances or zoning regulations that you see as in need of dire change, and if so, how would you navigate being on a board and bringing about a change?
To say that there's one specifically that's need a change, I can't think of one at the moment, but I have seen areas that I would like to make sure that their future is thought of. Specifically, the amount of work that's gone into the River Arts District and the uniqueness there. There are a lot of open plots of land that, if not careful, if they're zoned incorrectly or inappropriately, they can ruin the nature of the entire corridor. And as a pedestrian that uses it quite often, I know that there is a pretty high traffic demand there. And my concern would be that if it's turned to more like commercial and maybe not enough residential in that commercial zoning, that you could end up having an even greater problem. And then that walkability, that pedestrian friendliness may go away, and it may change the entire nature of what a whole lot of work has been put into.
Any other questions?
Hi, Ken.
Hello.
Thanks for coming. And I was
Thank you.
sort of, I think that was real interesting, your response to what if we're not careful as how we handle the River Arts District, and sort of maybe making sure that the balance between residential and commercial is closely looked upon. What would a percentage to you, how commercial versus residential, would you think would be healthy for that area?
For that area, the commercial, it would probably be in the neighborhood of like a 50-50 to 60-40 split, like more emphasis on residential and maybe apartment, maybe affordable housing is more focused on. And on the commercial side, I would be very cautious of any large retailer, making sure that spaces for the commerce that would occur are restricted. Because again, to maintain that pedestrian friendliness, I would be concerned about the traffic that those businesses would draw to the area.
Okay, so the 60% is residential, you're saying?
Correct.
A bit more. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Kim. I'm very thankful at your willingness to contribute as a new neighbor in our community. Considering the 6 themes of our Living Asheville Comprehensive Plan, which include livable built environment, resilient economy, harmony with the natural environment, healthy community, interwoven equity, and responsible regionalism, are there things that are getting in the way of us getting to our shared aspirational goals, and what can we do about it?
I won't say that specifically that there is one thing that's getting in the way. It is more of it's maintaining that balance of being a growing city and not being tempted to be pulled towards zoning opportunities that are more focused on business and, potential sources of tax revenue. and making sure that those 6 points are still the real focus, because it's very easy to me. I think it's very easy for any municipal agency to look at ways to bring in additional income and be tempted to do that with potentially sacrificing, even like unknowingly, a neighborhood or a corridor or area, when all the intention was really meant to be good, but something was given up.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If
Okay.
there's not another question, I would like to follow up on one thing. I just want to make sure everybody had a chance to ask their question. You had spoken to this idea of either preventing larger big box stores or et cetera. For a long time, I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but there have been some folks interested in the downtown area in looking at restrictions on box size or adding conditional approval to like large boxes. And I'm wondering, is that something that you were intending, like you were getting at, that kind of, because we can't really restrict the user?
I guess, yeah, more box size to that point. Yeah, you can't restrict the user, but there are ways that you can, I think that there would be ways to make it more advantageous for a user. I'm not saying that like a user like that couldn't come in, but there would be other criteria that would need to be established, like spending money to improve some infrastructure around it, sidewalk, storm sewer, whatever, and just being able to offset the impact that their business would bring to the area that they're going into.
Okay, that brings us to the conclusion of this interview. So thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to move on to the second of our 5 interviews with Ricardo, and you'll have to help me say your last name, Sejo.
Sejo.
If you could, welcome. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on P&Z.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity today. My name is Ricardo Sejo. I should probably put that in my cover letter, how to pronounce that. I am originally from Puerto Rico, and I grew up in a place that is very much a tourist destination. And I grew up around the whole question of tourism and how to live with that as basically as the main source of as the main industry in a place. And anyway, so grew up in Puerto Rico, lived there, born and raised until I went to college at Virginia Tech, graduated from architecture. And after I lived in Blacksburg, after I graduated from Virginia Tech, I stayed in Blacksburg working for the university for a little bit. And as I mentioned in my cover letter, Blacksburg is a place that also shares a lot of things in common with Asheville because it's a college town. And it also has, these days with football, there's a lot of influx during the football season. So there are questions about managing the growth and the influx of people and the need for the infrastructure for all those, all these people. That is really just limited to parts of the year, and it's a seasonal thing, or it's just weekends during a season, that sort of thing. After Blacksburg, I lived in Annapolis, Maryland for I think it was about 18 years. Annapolis, as I mentioned, also a place that has a lot of shares a lot of things with Asheville in terms of being a city that is. It has a lot of influx, has a lot of tourism, but has a lot of history. So Annapolis weighs all of these things constantly. And, as you walk through the city, it's very much a historic city. It's very much a living museum. But there's people living there, and I myself lived downtown for 11 years. So I know what it's like to live in that environment and, deal with the, coming home with the groceries and that sort of thing as you're dealing with everybody else, all the tourism, all of the seasonal activities and things like that. I moved to Asheville permanently about a year and a half ago. I have been visiting for about 6 or 7 years now on a very regular basis. But I finally, made the move, and I'm here now permanently, and I'm laying down roots, bought a house. And so the reason I am interested in the Planning and Zoning Commission is because now I really do have a stake here. And I also feel like I have a lot that I can contribute. I'm coming from, I think a particular unique background. I feel like my own background is diverse in and of itself, having lived, in the tropics and the mountains of Virginia, in the, in Maryland, in the DC area. And I see my partner lives here. She's also an architect here in town. And I have been plugged in to the struggles that Asheville has been going through, listening to it through her, hearing about it through her. And I understand that there are issues with growth and the balance of growth and responsible growth and sustainable growth. And I want to make sure that I'm a part of it, that I am actually contributing with my expertise, with my particular outlook, and being a part of steering the ship. Because as I said, I now have a stake here, permanently.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Mr. Sejo, this is Gwen Whistler. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Are there any areas in the city that you've observed or, you're hearing out in the community that you think the development has been handled inappropriately, or you think the zoning isn't right? Just to give us a sense of, sort of what you think is right and wrong, or on the other hand, is there an area in the city that you've noted that, we've really done it right?
Great question. I think there are areas that, as I see it, I see they seem a little empty, inactive, particularly areas down slope of, things like the South Slope and out on Hendersonville Road and all that. And so these are the areas that have always bothered me. I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity. And, on the other hand, the development that I'm seeing, in downtown and around downtown, increasing density and activating the street, I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks. Sage?
Thank you. It's wonderful to meet you. And since you're relatively new, welcome to Asheville.
Thank you.
I'm curious. So Asheville, it sounds like you're aware, we are seeing a big market push for building. There's a lot of activity in Asheville right now. There's a lot of relocation to Asheville. And what we're seeing often are these large projects, perhaps on the periphery. I know we've had a couple like the Crossroads and things. And when I think about the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think of them as kind of like our review board. They come into us with their greatest advice, and it's a critical role in the city. And I'm curious if you can speak to it all in your kind of civic mind and previous cities that you've worked in. where do you believe, if we have a large growth in population, do you think these outskirts are good? As a planning and zoning member, do you have any ideas on sustainability and where large pockets of housing and development should go?
I would point to some of those areas that I'm seeing not far from downtown and, needing just activation. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. For example, the mall. That's a large property that maybe that's something that could be turned into a school. Maybe that's something that could be turned into a sort of village or cottage type of development. But I would push for density as much as possible. I think that the reason people come to Asheville is because of the surrounding areas. I mean, we have the great bars, the great restaurants, the great stores, but you're doing that, on a limited basis, and you're not coming here to do just that. You're coming here to go out on the river, go out hiking, go biking. I myself, I'm an avid biker. I love, biking up and down, Town Mountain. Coming down at 60 miles an hour is great. So yeah, I would point to density. One thing that if I can add to that, one thing that I also see, well, actually, are there any other questions? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that I am concerned about about the growth in Asheville is, the whole question with the hotels and things like that these days. I know that there was a moratorium for about 1.5 years, and now we're, with the new overlay in place, we're, moving forward with that. But I still see some issues with the way some of the regulation is written, because there's still opportunity for developers to come in, throw up a not so large hotel and, play the system and find the loopholes, and then, do exactly what we're trying to keep them from doing, which is unbalance the development and the growth.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of this interview. And we'll move on to the next candidate.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to interview Jeffrey Barton. Looking at my, yes, there you are, right in the middle of my screen.
Hello.
Hi. Would you please begin by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in serving on P&Z?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you for having me at this interview, members of the council. I'm interested in becoming a member of P&Z to really place an affordable housing subject matter expert on P&Z. I came to Asheville 8.5, almost 9 years ago on an Enterprise Rose Architectural Fellowship, which is a program sponsored by Enterprise Community Partners, a national nonprofit that places young architects at nonprofit community development agencies. So I landed at Mountain Housing Opportunities and have been there ever since. They, I think, didn't realize it was only a 3-year fellowship. So now I've been there almost 9 years and they haven't kicked me out yet. So I really think that affordable housing continues to be the number one thing that everyone advocates for. I think is so important to the growth of our community, and the various plans for Asheville, the comp plan, all acknowledge the importance of building affordable housing. And I think it's something that we're all struggling with, is how to do it. Do we rely on the private developers voluntarily committing a portion of their units? Do we try to create advantageous locations served by transit and create the right subsidy stack to make a deeply affordable housing development work? And, I'm an all of the above kind of person, and I think that I can really lend some expertise on how to bring affordable housing in the incentive programs that the city offers, as well as look at ways that we haven't been able to be successful in bringing affordable housing. So that's kind of my number one focus. I think I also said in my statement of intent that Asheville is a very divided community. I think that the legacies of urban renewal continue to wreak their havoc on our community, and planning has been an instrument of division. And I think it's the responsibility of planning to be a tool to correct that. So those are kind of my personal interests. I'd love to entertain questions from you all to dive deeper into what I could bring to P&Z if selected.
Sandra, please.
Yes, thank you so very much for throwing your name in the hat. I must say that I am very impressed with the issues that you find that the community does need, and you're taking a stand on those issues. And I would just like to thank you very much for that. However, due to the limited amount of land available at this time to actually, to really make a big impact on this affordable housing thing that's going on, tell me, do you have any ideas as to what we could do to actually make a bigger impact on being able to get more affordable homes in the limited amount of space that we have available?
Where I would begin is something that we say at Mountain Housing Opportunities a lot. There's an untapped resource out there that's administered by the state. It's a federal tax credit, the 4% low-income housing tax credit. It was the financial vehicle that was used to get the redevelopment of Lee Walker Heights to become Maple Crest Apartments at Lee Walker Heights across the, finally fill the full funding gap on that development. And it's a non-competitive resource. So whereas a lot of affordable housing subsidies are extremely competitive and rely on, just a shot at the dartboard, this is one that if city and county can come up with the resources, it can develop up to 200 units in a single development. So that's an underutilized resource to bring truly affordable housing that we as a city and the county really need to explore further.
Thank you.
So who else had their hand raised? There was someone behind.
And Jeffrey, Jeffrey, it's really great to see you. I'll echo what Sandra said, and thank you for applying. Being very familiar with MHO and having worked with you in the past, I'm just really thankful for the work you do in the community and that you applied. It's not an easy job, and you're busy. I'm curious because you do have your hands in this work already, and affordability is your passion, and you spoke a little bit about tax credits, and that's great. But at P&Z, there's really two big roles, like responding to and reviewing projects and policies, but then also initiating some and advising on some. What would you do kind of zoning or ordinance wise, kind of out of the gate, something that might really help with affordability or housing inventory in general?
Thanks for your question. Yeah, I think that's an important role that P&Z commissioners play is initiating. And I would say that I already initiate ideas with planning staff in my participation in various initiatives, whether it's crafting policy or the form-based code initiatives. I'm a regular commenter and, I try to be helpful in honing in policies that strike the right balance. I think with incentives, it's always, you want an incentive to be the thing that tips the scale and makes something possible that otherwise wouldn't have been. And then on the flip side, what you want requirements and regulations to be mandates that don't kill a great development. So, I think that I already look at and talk with planning staff about different incremental changes. I'd look forward to engaging more fully with planning staff on bigger initiatives that could have, the kinds of big impacts that I think we all see as important.
Any other questions? Oh, Antoinette.
Hi, Jeffrey. So good to see you. I hope you're well.
Thank you.
You mentioned something earlier that caught my attention. It was planning used as a way, perhaps unintentionally, to cause harm, and then you spoke specifically of urban renewal. As far as initiating goes, do you have any ideas of any tweaks that could be undertaken to kind of turn back the ill effects of urban renewal? Is there anything that you could suggest that will get us further along the path that we seek?
I think this council is very actively engaged in that through the reparations initiatives, and I think smartly that has been outlined to start with listening, deep listening. I don't pretend to be a victim of urban renewal, and so I do think that listening is a key component, and participatory planning is a key way to build a brighter future and to kind of undo the harms. I think there's some seeds for really good neighborhood planning and advocacy in this community. Shiloh, I think, is a great example of a community that has created a successful neighborhood plan and used it to collaborate with developers like Habitat and Mountain Housing, who propose developments in their neighborhoods. So, maybe that doesn't directly answer the question around urban renewal in this community, but I think that it starts with listening to the impacted neighborhoods and seeing, what created divisions and what potential there is to undo. I mean, we're not going to unbuild South Charlotte Street, but we can acknowledge the harm that did in cutting off the East End neighborhoods from downtown and start to address the impacts.
And maybe we could, but thank you.
In our final minute, anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to move on to our next interviewee, and that is Sarah Wilcox. Hi, Sarah.
How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Please begin by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in applying to PNC.
Well, thank you all for your service and the gift you give to our community. I'm grateful for it. I moved here to Asheville in 2007 with my husband and my then 1-year-old, who's now 15. And I have watched this community grow and become more beautiful, and a lot of wonderful things happen in it. And I've also done that alongside a historical trajectory and understanding of the realities of our history that are very meaningful. So I was schooled doing political science before I discerned my call to ministry. I'm a pastor in the city of Asheville, and the work that I have done pastoring is part of the work that draws me to this work. It is a commitment to a wider lens that understands the impact of our choices and our decisions at every area and every decision of government, and how it matters to have people in the room who have a lens and understanding that's greater than even just that single issue. So the commitments in our community around reparations drive this. You can't plan and zone without intention, and attention to the racism that is built into our planning and zoning from the past. We have to figure out ways to undo that together. And so it feels really important that the folks sitting around the table at planning and zoning are intentional to that. The Living Asheville plan speaks about interweaving equity, and that has to be a lens through which decisions are made, but not always the lens through which experts in the field are considering things. I'm a connector of dots, and so I see a big pictures. That's one of my gifts, and I'm interested in using those gifts in public service.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Sarah, thank you for participating. How how often have you sat through P&Z meetings, and what's your take on the process, and what would you add to it?
Yeah, so a P&Z meeting is, I think there are probably some folks who go to church meetings who see them just as bad. They're long, and they go through a lot, and that's okay. I think that I'm aware that oftentimes people are trying to get a lot done in short time, and I think really important things deserve our deep intention. So I know them to have plenty of minutes to them, and also evaluate the projects that are coming into our community. What I hope to give to those moments are curiosity and questions about the human impact of our continued intention around growth, which is both a value that's important, but is also done often without considering the human impact that is borne on people disproportionately.
Anyone else have any questions? Oh, Sage, thank you.
I'll ask a similar question I'm asking all candidates or applicants. One, thank you for applying. I am curious if there is anything right out of the gate that you would feel like is an ordinance or a zoning change that you would advocate for, or something that just sticks out as something was left unfinished or is not working well or could be a lot better.
I think that by and large, I'm committed to seeing more and more mixed use spaces. And so the ways in which we break down the isolation of residential zoning to ensure that there is interactive opportunities across our populations, but also access to the different ways of living so that there are more third places in spaces throughout our zoning is pretty critical to my interests.
Anyone else have a question?
This is Kim. Thank you so much, Sarah. So considering the 6 themes of our Living Asheville Comprehensive Plan, which include the livable built environment, resilient economy, harmony with the natural environment, healthy community, interwoven equity, which you've named, and responsible regionalism, do you see any things right now that are getting in the way of our aspirational goals?
Human beings. I mean, I think the reality is that we are human beings with vast interests and needs, and oftentimes they are competing realities. And so a lot of agendas come to the table. Those agendas matter and they're important, but that we have to make decisions about the ways we prioritize things. So I think that in any given situation, you're going to have multiple avenues by which there are various consequences for any one choice and decision, and being conscious about thinking through the unintended consequences and impact of our decision making and how they work towards these goals is an ongoing need. That it has to be a paradigm shift. It has to be a lens through which decisions are made. Curiosity comes forth. Questions are asked.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today for this interview. And we're going to move on to our final interview for today. And again, these appointments will be made at tonight's meeting. Thanks. Our last interviewee is Roosevelt Harvin, and I'm not sure, I got a message that he may or may not be with us. I'm looking around my little boxes. Nope, Jerry, tell us.
I have not been able to reach him today.
Okay, so we do not have Mr. Harvin with us. And folks, you may also see a share Cogliola. She was not able to join us today either. So that concludes our interviews for Buncombe County Tourism and Development Authority, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. And again, we will be making these appointments this evening at our city council meeting. So see you all back here at 5 o'clock. All right, thank you.